Welcome to the Fox Den Podcast, where leaders gather to grow. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fox Den, where leaders gather to grow. I'm your host today, Stephen Allen Fox, and I'm excited that today the guest is Emily Yoon, who is Vice President and an agent at Wasserman Music, created and runs their symphony department, which is actually a first for a major talent agency to have a symphony department, is a music agent for Disney concerts worldwide, and a key partner in working with them to create a very large package of concerts that are available to be performed all around the world. And personally, very happy that she also represents for my company, Front Row Concerts, and my business partner, Victor Pesavento, a concert that we have, which is Scream Live to Film, the film from 1996. So welcome, Emily. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's always nice to have people come in and just to give some insight and some perspective for people, maybe something different that they can take home. And I love one of the things that you and I have talked about. I think everybody has probably heard the phrase, treat others like you would like to be treated. I don't know. You might be the first person that I've ever experienced where like, no, that's not just my motto in like my personal life. It's like, I don't think of my friends and family that way. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, about how you bring that into your professional life as well as your personal life?
Yeah, so I mean, generally, I want to both be in a professional space and a personal space that I'm comfortable in. So I think, when you had asked a few weeks ago how, do I treat my clients differently than I do family and friends? It's simple. It's no, we're all humans. I want the best for my family and the best for my friends, and I want the best for my clients. So, it goes back to something we all learned in probably preschool, but it, it, it just proves, doing the right thing, being honest, you get that back from people and the trust. And trust is huge, obviously, in personal life, but it's huge in business. Being able to have colleagues that trust me, I trust them. We can have open and honest conversations, maybe sometimes harder conversations, but it ultimately leads us to just doing better all around.
Yeah, I love that one of your first comments was, they're humans. It's like we're all people, right? I mean,
Right.
it's at the end of the day, if we remember first and foremost that we're working with people and that whatever product we're trying to create from that or service we're trying to give or whatever the productivity is, people are doing it. And
Right, exactly.
yeah,
And also, I'm helping my clients, they need to earn money, they want to earn money. And by me doing a good job for them, they're also then going to reciprocate and do their best to reciprocate and do a good job for whatever, concert they get booked on. And that just means it's easier for me to get them another gig with that same buyer. It's cyclical. So, and
right.
I say this a lot with new buyers, especially for Disney concerts. It's like, I've got you're looking to book one show with me. I've got like 40 more shows that I want you to buy. So I want your success is also my success because you're going to come back and buy more. So I just kind of take that approach with really everything. And I found that to be a very useful kind of opinion and lifestyle.
Right. Well, and I think, as a conductor myself, I think that this philosophy, that's what I take to heart when I work with musicians is,
Yeah.
these musicians are people. And, at the end of the day, they're creating the product. I'm not. I'm leading them to something, but they're the ones that then create the sound that the audience hears. And I have found that if I let them know I see them first, um, they then kind of carry that forward. I think in a similar way, like as a conductor, if you book a conductor for a show and the way you've treated that conductor or the people that are they're buying a concert or something, if they see you acting that way, maybe they'll even pay that forward a little bit. And if it started with you, somebody's going to remember that and
Yeah,
come
exactly.
back to you again.
Well,
Uh,
and everyone's just gonna have a better time. Like,
right.
I don't want to go to bed at night and wake up in the middle, of the night and be stressed because I piss someone off or vice versa. It's like we we want to be in a nice environment. Um, and I think that's just what it comes down to is being in a good space, whether it's at home or at work.
And that's one of the great things I've liked with the different projects I've been on where you've been a part of it and some of the other people that have consistently been a part of it is I found it hard. I have found it to be hard in those teams of people to find people that aren't wanting to enjoy it. It's like they
Right,
want to enjoy it. I mean,
right.
people who don't want to enjoy it typically disappear from that kind of an environment because it's like we don't need you. There's enough stress as it is.
Oh, exactly. But it's also like what we do for a living is create joy for people. Like the most rewarding feeling for me professionally is when I walk into a concert hall or an arena or wherever it is, and it's filled with lots of people that are so excited about what's going to happen on stage. And I just sit there in my seat just thinking, ooh, I had something to do to, help cause this to happen, to give these people joy. So like why there are always going to be hard times in business and things that are really annoying that you don't want to do or challenging personalities. There's always, it's not all, rainbows and sunshine. But when you can make it as much rainbows and sunshine as possible, because we're creating joy for people, ticket buyers, we may as well lean into that.
Yeah, the Little Mermaid. I remember the first time Little Mermaid was at the Hollywood Bowl,
Yeah.
and for that show, the first time during the show itself, I didn't have anything to do except for be ready to jump on stage if I had to, if something happened to Kaz on the podium. And
Yeah.
so I walked up to the top of the Hollywood Bowl and I just looked down at 18,000 people and how many of them were kids and just on their feet and screaming and singing along and all of that. And I just stood there looking at this going, that's why we do this. So with everything you've done and the success you've had, the major corporations you've worked with, the position you hold, starting an entire department in a talent agency like that, a first for talent agencies. There's obviously a lot that has gone into this over the years, and I'm just curious, how much of your success do you think is hard work, and how much of it do you think is luck?
I'd say Uh, 90%, 80%, I don't know. Let's say 85% is hard work, and then the rest of it is luck. I definitely think that luck plays a, a part in all of it, but you work hard to find yourself in situations that you may not expect to be in, and it's just the right timing.
Yeah.
And very like I have a couple of projects that I went into a meeting really for an existing client of mine, trying to get them some additional work. And I ended up walking out of that meeting with four new projects to book myself. And so it was just, and those were people that I'd never worked with that company before. I'd always known about them. We'd kind of circled each other, stayed in touch, were nice to each other, friendly, those kinds of things. And it just happened to be, I just showed up at the right time and it fell in my lap. So I definitely think that there's pieces of that. I mean, Disney concerts to some extent is the same story. I mean, I worked um, really hard at my previous job, tried to make a name for myself, find a place where I would add value to the company that didn't already exist. Um, my boss at the time, there was a conductor client of ours who had this um, just thought that Disney concerts could be a bigger thing than what it was. I think at that point it was Fantasia in concert and Pixar in concert, maybe Pixar in concert. And so my boss at the time went and chased down the team trying to figure out, okay, who's in charge of this? Who's putting this all together? I happened to be in the right position to then, once that client was signed, to then book those shows and really built that business with another colleague who was sitting over at Disney. Um, and that's kind of just how that whole piece started. And again, it was just I worked hard, but I happened to be in the right place at the right time.
I think along with hard working, you have to also be kind of open-minded, don't you? It's that you don't know where it's going to come from, and you don't even, it might be a pathway you never could have imagined.
Yes.
But if you're open-minded to it and then see what happens with it, that luck suddenly takes you a place that it's like, wow, I never thought I'd be doing this. Um,
Yeah, yes, exactly. I mean, there are a lot of people who like to manifest and, make those boards every year for like their goals for the New Year's resolution, all those kinds of things. Um, I am not that person. I mean, I definitely just, fly by the seat of my pants, like just, somehow, I had no plan when I was in college for what I wanted to do after college. I fell into music management. And then when I was working at a big classical music agency, I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. And I looking back on it, kind of kick myself like, why didn't I do a little bit more research? Like, different roles and talk to people. And maybe I should be telling that to myself right now. But, I guess that you're right. Like, I was just open to what was going to happen. And I wasn't afraid to say, okay, no one else at this company wants to deal with this client. So I'm going to go deal with that client and figure out how to make it, and
right.
that made me stand out and look different and get some additional opportunities.
It sounds to me like you kind of had a vision board of your own without making a vision board, and that was just be a hard worker.
Also instinct. That's another piece of all
Yeah,
which your brother probably felt. Like listening to your gut. I think that's hugely important. When I'm hiring people to work for me, that's, I mean, are they going to write exactly the type of email response you would want them to write, or how, like, you never really know how someone's going to work out in a job until they get the job and give it
right,
a go. Especially in, entry level positions. So a lot of the times I just rely on instinct and just the general, just, again, the human to human thing. You just
right,
get a sense of, is this the type of person that I'm going to want to work with, that is going to, dig in and find the answers that don't necessarily just fit in a square box.
right.
Um, so I think for your brother, he just
Instinct.
obviously saw how hardworking she was in her, waitressing position. But I'm sure he had a gut instinct of, this seems like someone that could go somewhere.
Right. Well, and you say that human to human element. I mean, if somebody's working at a job, like you're saying, especially at entry level, there's a certain amount of what they're doing that is training as to how that company or that person who they're working for wants it done. If that human to human says this person's trainable, we get along, we're on the same page, then that other stuff just kind of happens on its own. They get it and they learn it and
Right.
and if they have the right work ethic, the right attitude, and that's a big thing nowadays is attitude. There's so many different directions that people's personalities go nowadays that if you don't have it right, it's going to be a problem. Um,
Yeah,
so it's like
attitude
that
for
before
sure.
anything.
For sure, attitude. I mean, um, if I I don't even know how to explain it properly, but it's you just have to have the can do attitude.
Hmm.
Willing to roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty. And even as a leader, like for my team, I'm, as much as sometimes I don't want to do it, like I just want to flip the work to someone else and have them do it. There's also a leadership thing of like, I'm willing to show my team that I can do this small stuff. Like I can figure out how to put a calendar, meeting calendar invite in my own calendar. Like I don't have to have my assistant do that. Like I can just do it myself. Or small things like, if someone's on a vacation, like my assistant's on vacation or my coordinator, if a contract needs to be entered into our system, I can do it. I'm willing to take the time to do something that is not necessarily my job, but needs to get done. And I think that is a big, important part of leadership is being willing to do the work
Step
that,
up.
yeah, do the stuff that you don't want to do.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. We're asking people all the time to do things they don't want to do. So if they see you doing something you don't want to do, you're leading by example. And frankly, if it's something that they normally would do, but a situation has made it that they're just not going to be able to get it done, they're on vacation or whatever it is,
Right.
it also sends a signal to them that you're supporting them because they know they're the one that usually does it, but you're picking up the slack because the situation's not allowing them to do it. And, I find that that's besides people wanting to feel like they're seen as a person, they want to know that you're there to lift them up and to support them to get things done and not just say, hey, that's your job, get it done or else. Um,
Right, exactly. And
yeah.
also, I do try to tell my team like when I need to be doing something, or there's one client in particular, I won't be specific at all, but I find it sometimes really challenging to dig in and do the work. I can't really exactly explain why, but it's just that one piece where like I start the day, I'm like, okay, I need to do this for this client. And then the day goes on, the day goes on, and I will come up with so many possible reasons to not do what I'm supposed to do. And I've been honest with my team of like, I'm struggling with this. So like you need to hold me accountable, just so
Uh-huh.
that they realize that, if they're in a similar situation, they can also tell me and I
Right.
can help hold them accountable or just there's an openness in our team as to what's hard, what's easy, and just because I'm, quote unquote sit at the top doesn't mean that like it's not necessarily easy sitting up here, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I have similar tendencies and I find myself surrounding myself with people. My closest people are the ones willing to tell me, Steve, get it done.
Yeah.
This needs to happen. It's like, yeah, and whatever it is. And or tell me, no, that's wrong. You just got that wrong. Let's fix it.
Right. Right.
Um,
And I tried, like my assistant, I try for the most part, there's some situations where I purposely say that when I introduce him in public, that I purposely say he's my assistant, um, which is probably a whole other conversation about being a woman and whatnot. But generally, like when we're out and about meeting clients and this kind of stuff, this is my colleague. This is I don't say I try to introduce them on the same level or, a similar level to where I am.
uh-huh.
Which, the first time I, I did that recently with my current assistant and he noticed. And he actually said to me, I really appreciate that you didn't introduce me as your assistant.
Well, isn't it funny? Because really all that happens when you empower somebody else is you're also empowering your own ability to succeed. It's unfortunate that some people don't see the world that way, but um,
Yeah,
I,
and I mean, there are plenty of very successful people who don't see the world that way.
yeah,
So this is, I guess, not the only answer. It's just it goes back to human thing, and it goes back to the environment that I want to be in. I spend how many hours every single week doing my job. Like
right.
I don't want to hate it, and I don't want to hate the people around me, or vice versa. So um,
There are a lot of people that can be leaders that way. They just won't be on the Fox Den. Well, this would be a whole nother subject, but I have to say, we both have families. And um, how do you see a way to balance your family, your personal life, and your work? Or is that just a constant thing that has to be worked at?
it's a constant thing that has to be worked out for sure.
Yeah.
It's gotten, I don't know if I would use the word easier. Um, it's been interesting since the pandemic with the remote work and how much more commonplace it's become. Uh, in the afternoons, my kids start coming home from school starting at 3:30 in the afternoon. And I pretty much feed them dinner when they get home because they just don't know how to snack. They want one snack and they need another snack, and it's like, okay, I'm just gonna give you dinner. Um, and so people especially people I talk to on a regular basis, just know that if you're gonna call me between like 3:30 and 4:30 or 5 o'clock, I might be in the kitchen stirring a pot of something as I'm talking to you. So, but people understand.
Right.
And I certainly have been on the flip side where I'm calling someone and I can hear their child, screaming in the background or a dog barking, or I'm on the sideline of a soccer field, but they're, willing to have the conversation, get the business done. So, I think in some regard it's gotten easier. And then I can also come up with how it's gotten harder, but it's a constant balance for sure.
Easier, it sounds like, in the way where they've blended a little bit, but people are accepting of it, is what it
Yes,
sounds like you're saying. Yeah.
I think so, at least in my industry. And eventually also and I'm in a very specific part of the music industry. And it eventually becomes a small world like any other business. So a lot of the people that I have worked with for 15 years, maybe longer. They knew me before I was married, knew me before I had children, and vice versa. So there's, uh, in some cases, an actual friendship. In other cases, we're just very good colleagues, and we just kind of grew up together and just understand that this is kind of the phase of life we're in, and we're all trying to get our jobs done, as quickly and efficiently as possible. So people are more open-minded to it.
Very good. Well, thank you for the time today. Some great things for people that hopefully benefits them. I appreciate you coming on the Fox Den with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's nice to
Yeah.
talk to you.
Likewise, and thank you everybody for watching. If you'd like to stay connected, you can visit me at StevenAllenFox.com. And we look forward to seeing you the next time on the Fox Den.
Visit us at foxpoint.net and StevenAllenFox.com.